finish, last word of your ending. No pretending, I don't fabricate or fantasize. Before I execute, I meditate and strategize. Sing your mama roses, hold the pain to passerby. I get the bread, that's the only way I'm pacified.
Carolina born from a Carolina breed. Welcome to Carolina where them boys stack cheese.
Yo, what's the deal, man? It's your boy Yadda, man. Hey, it's the Sweet Podcast. Every Tuesday and Thursday, gotta know what it is, gotta tune in, gotta see all that. You feel what I'm saying? Today, I got my homeboy with me.
Sak, what up?
And I got my humble. Let me change that up. I'm humble. All the way humble. Dog, I got my partner, man. Big partner came to the show to show you boys some love. And he said he got some things he want to talk about, Paul, man. Appreciate you being here. You know, we doing that Corona bump.
No doubt.
There it is.
Salute to y'all, man, for having me here on the Sweet, man.
Yeah, definitely.
We really appreciate it. I see what y'all doing, man, and I definitely support what y'all got going on because this is gonna be a big thing. It's definitely gonna be big. Y'all just starting out, but it's gonna go crazy.
Hey, I appreciate
definitely
right
appreciate
there,
it,
man. And the foresight, boy.
That's humble too, man. Definitely, man.
Word, your YouTube page doing huge numbers.
Oh gosh, man.
I'm talking about like everybody in South Carolina done watch your YouTube page by 7-8 times, bro. It's doing numbers like that.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know what I'm saying?
No doubt. It started a long time ago.
I was about to ask you, man, like get into your origin, like where you want to start the thing off at.
Origins. I'm gonna start from the beginning.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to keep this thing as swift as possible, but it got about 30 years on it.
Gotcha.
You know, I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana.
Okay.
And you know, at the time I was born back in the late 70s, we were experiencing a lot of drug problems up there. You know, from heroin and other drugs. So my mother, man, she just had some kind of foresight in realizing that she didn't want us in that environment. You know, my great granddaddy, my granddaddy, a lot of my closest family members were kind of, they were mobsters, and she didn't want that lifestyle for her, you know, for her son, and you know, so her and her sister, her oldest sister, they moved here. They literally got on a bus and with nothing, and came down here with 3 kids. And they had a brother in the military, so you know, he was at the base. That's how they even knew about South Carolina.
Okay.
So once he got restationed, they stayed here, you know, and tried to, you know, make their way. So we went through I guess my mother wouldn't like to hear it, but we went through homelessness. I don't know how long because I was just a child, but I can vividly remember, like, you know, shelter living and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
Till she finally got on her feet and you know, became the woman that she is today, a solid woman that made sure, you know, that I had.
Salute. Amen.
You know, so with that and the background that I came from, it was just something that I noticed about me compared to the other kids that I was around. It was, I can't say that I felt like I was more thoughtful, but it kind of came to a point where I realized that I was a little different. Even when it came to, you know, just being in elementary school and hustling and thinking about ways to hustle. Like if I went to the store and I saw a candy bar, I knew I could probably pay 50 cents for it. Well, back then it was 25 cents for it, and go to school and sell it for 50 cents. You know, so I hustled candy for a while and became pretty popular with it. You know, cut grass, whatever it took for me to make an extra dollar, and that kind of instilled in me the fact that I knew, you know, that I had something different from most people.
Yeah.
So my grandfather, which is my sister's dad, he took a liking to me, and he was a older guy. I mean, he was in his 60s then. And every Saturday he would come pick me up at about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I would leave with him, and I would go work with him at his house, you know, sanding pianos, cutting grass, doing whatever it took, you know, until pretty much, you know, in the late afternoon when the sun was coming down, and he would pull up with that big old Cadillac, drop me off, and give me $2.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And I should have been making 30 to 50. You know, I would cry every time I got my $2. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But back then, $2 would put a quarter tank of gas in the car. So I come in the house and my mom be like, "Hey, let me get that $2. I need some gas." So I knew I needed more. So I moved back to Indiana for a summer, and I'm gonna switch it up to how we got to, you know, where I actually came from with the music and entertainment and stuff. When I moved back to Indiana for a couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years, around the time I was about 8 or 9, I got introduced to rap. I think the first rap that I heard was like Run DMC. They had just dropped the album called Raising Hell, and back then you couldn't say that. Like it was like devil's music. So you say Raising Hell or rap, you getting a whooping from where I was from. Right. So my dad, man, my sister's dad. He raised me, and he was kind of hip dude, man. He had big speakers in his trunk way before we even knew what that was. He was up on music, so he would send me these mixtapes, and I'm talking about before people really even heard of that kind of stuff. He used to get them from Florida or from these DJs that used to go back and forth to Florida.
DJ Magic Mike.
Right. So he sent me a tape that had the Beastie Boys on it, LL, a couple of dudes from out west, I think like King T or whatever, man. And I fell in love with it, so I just started imitating it, and I became LL Cool J, man. He was my favorite. He had the ladies, he had the hard rhymes or whatever, and it wasn't a group. So that's when Cool C was introduced to the world. With me basically going places doing talent shows, and imitating Cool C, imitating, and my name is Charles, so that's where the C part came from. But I would go around imitating LL, get my Kango, and back then we had little Jerry curls and all kind of stuff. Honestly,
the S curl.
Right, that's what it was. It was an S curl. S curl, Duke with the blue, it has blue gel, whatever it was. So fast forward time, and I moved back to South Carolina, and I still had the itch for it. But when I got here, it wasn't a scene. It wasn't a scene yet. It wasn't any rappers and stuff here. We had so my cousin, he was like big on like poetry and trying to like be a poet, or just he was just an enlightened kind of fella. I was more of a street dude, and he was more enlightened. So I think he started rapping first, and I kind of was just paying attention to what he was doing. So we formed a group, just doing little crazy stuff around the house called the Woodsman. Back then it was all about having a conceptual name or coming up with a definite concept for what you were doing. So we were from the South. Everything was from New York at the time, so we were like, we wanted a voice, we the Woods, we from the South, blah blah blah. So that's kind of like where we came from with it. And from that point, we started buying little pieces of equipment and stuff, and he introduced me to one of his friends that like he just had a knack for putting things together. You show him a microphone, he knew what to hook it to. And we just formed this crazy little compact studio inside my mother's house. And she was real instrumental in us doing what we do, because she didn't care. She was like, as long as y'all ain't getting in no trouble, y'all can do what y'all do. We in there just as loud as we can be all night. And she was one of the type of people that didn't care as long as we were being positive. So they had a few talent shows and things like that at the time. I think they had a major one called the Rudolph Kanzata Scholarship Fund. At the time, it was a group called Soul Oasis that formed around here. And these dudes were like Wu-Tang, like 10 times better than Wu-Tang from my understanding. And we had to go up against these guys. So it wasn't no way we could beat them. Talent-wise, they had way more talent than us. But being the Southern boy that I am, I looked at them and I said, you know what? The crowd is not going to react to all these hats and all these different colors and these pants sagging off. So we went and went and bought uniforms. Basically, we bought uniforms, and we came out in a uniform group, and we won the contest. After we won the contest, it was like $500. We couldn't tell us we wasn't rich at the time. And it was just the notoriety of getting it done. So my cousin and my homeboy, they kind of faded away from the music scene. They just, started doing other things, but I kept going with it. And the more and more I liked it, I just kept going and going and going. So I ended up at a place called Barnyard Studio. Barnyard Studio was actually a recording studio in the back of Crane Forest. And it was in a barn. But the guys, they redid it, man, and it had to be at least $40,000 to $50,000 they put inside that building. It was a real recording studio. I mean, it's one of the better studios I've been in my life. Even to this day, like the booth was soundproof. You could shoot a gun in there and you wouldn't hear it in the next room. Like they did it the official way. at that time they had some dealings with So Def, Jermaine Dupri. I know the Brat used to come through there. It was rumored that the guy who owned the studio was kind of, you know, rocking with the Brat a little bit. I kind of seen some things that let me know that it was more than likely true. You know, no doubt.
Around time when Mr. Black was with him.
Oh yeah, no doubt, and that's how I got there. Through Mr. Black. Mr. Black, I met him in Fairfield Arms. I was a low level street kind of hustler kind of guy at the time. Just moving pieces and you know, a slab here, a slab there, or something like that. And so I used to go out and gamble a lot. And at that time, it's a place called Fairfield Arms that a lot of people couldn't go to, unless you had a reputation or unless you were accepted. And I used to be one of those people that could go to Fairfield Arms, and I would be out there gambling and playing tunk and doing my thing. And people knew I rapped, so one day they was kind of like egging this battle on. They were like, "Yo, you got to battle this dude, Mr. Black, man, because he the best. And you talking about you can rap, you got to battle him." So he came around, man, and the thing about me at the time was everything that I was rapping was off the top of my head. I didn't know about written, constructed writing. So it was just me freestyling and talking about what I saw. I was dope until you come up into a guy that writes. He tore me up. He ate me alive. He was like, "Bro, you dope at what you doing, but I got to show you how to write." So Mr. Black was the person that actually showed me how to put a pen and pad in my hand and actually construct a verse and write a verse.
Shout out to Mr. Black.
Shout out to bro, man, and at that time, and they said, you know, he had habits and stuff like that. I was around him a lot, like night and day. We would be moving around and traveling, going to studios. I never seen him do anything, so it wasn't something that was in our friendship. Our first recording studio where we actually went in and recorded on a 4-track studio. I want to say that I was the first person that actually took him to a real recording studio. We had a homeboy that, for some reason, man, he had some high-end quality production equipment inside his room at USC. So we used to go there, like he had a 4-track recorder, the big boy mics, big boy keyboards. Like he was just a nerd, and he was actually in school for criminal justice. I don't know what this dude at to this day, but I know he was trying to be a lawyer, something that had to do with something. And we went in there and cut like a 4-track demo, man, and we just, you know, kept recording. So when I got to the barnyard, I was just a dude that had some pocket money, and you know, I always bought jewelry, chains, and stuff like that, so I looked like I belonged. And I used to pay for so much studio time. I used to just be there, and they thought that I was a part of the crew.
God damn.
So I kind of bought my way in, and I started recording my music. And at that time, I kind of had a growl, like kind of like DMX before DMX came out. And it was only a thing that if you liked it, you liked it. If you didn't, you didn't. And I was recording a lot of music. So what I was doing was I knew that these dudes had a big name in this So Def thing going on. So I would book all the studio time that I could. And I would just record as much as I could. So whenever they come around, they see me and they hear me.
I got you.
So I became like one of the people that people thought was an artist of Barnyard, but I never was. So they had this guy named Little Mac. Little Mac was an artist that was basically signed to So Def. And it was another battle situation. But at this time, I was right. And I was right, and I stepped my game up. And he was me before, you know. So basically, it was a room full of people. We had some money on the line. And they brought him down, you know what I mean, and to do his thing. He had a nice little image. He was a little young cat, bopping, you know what I mean. And he started going. He started rapping, like he was rapping like Bone or like Twisted. Man, he was going so hard. I was like, oh shit, I'm lost again. So I thought about it, and I said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna use his strength as his weakness. So I basically put a rhyme together in my head, mixed with some stuff that I wrote. And I ended it off with you basically rapping fast because you ain't talking about nothing. And once I said that, the room went crazy, and it made me be the #1 guy. So I took out the King Protege, and it made me be the #1 guy. So at the time, it was a guy named TL Bell that used to be there, Tanaki. He was a shrewd kind of guy. Straight to the point. From my understanding, I felt like he was a hustler. I can't say what he did for a living, but at that time, I felt like he was a hustler, kind of, you know, not on my level, way different from my level.
I feel you.
But he approached me like, bro, do you got management? I was like, nah, I'm just doing my thing. He was like, bro, do you want a manager? I was like, yeah. He was like, cool. He became my manager.
Just like that.
So what we would do is we would go around the city or different places, you know, even at the barnyard. And our goal was to crush everybody because he knew how hard I was. So what we would do is record songs and move around. And he was the best manager that you could have. Like, we're not, right now, he probably feel like because I'm moving and I'm not bringing him along with me that I feel some kind of way about him. But this interview is to let him and other people know that, nah, bro, I love you and I appreciate everything that you did for me. It's just I'm moving my way that I'm moving now. I never forget you, and wherever I go, you're going. But at that point in time, he was the best manager that you can have because no matter what I needed, he did it. I said, bro, we got to go to Pen and Pixel to get a cover done. He sent the money. We need to go get us an entertainment lawyer. He was like, for real, we need that? Done. We went I heard a record, man, from this booty music song where dude was like, Diane Lynch is my lawyer, and something like, I don't even remember the record, but I just made up a name. I was like, yo, we need to get Diane Lynch. And he was like, yo, that's what we need. So he paid the money for us to go down there. We went to this high rise and we sat in there and we talked with her. She became my entertainment lawyer. And RIP to this guy, man, Jake Ross. Jake Ross was a guy, man, back in the day. I never seen him drive a car, but he had a Jerry curl, a great Jerry curl. And he used to just walk up and down the streets of Killumbia. I seen him a lot. And he was from like the Hollywood. He was from everywhere, but the last residence that I know before he passed away was Hollywood Hills. And if you saw him, you wouldn't think anything of him, right? But this guy right here was one of the most connected guys in entertainment in our city. Why he walked around, I have no idea. That's just how he chose to move. But Tanaki was a real good friend of him. My manager was a real good friend of him, and he reached out to him one day, and we sat down and had a meeting. He came in. I'm looking at him like, this the guy you want us to meet? And he was like, yeah, man, he know everybody. He's connected. So dude came in. He looked at me. He said, man, you trying to be successful? I'm like, yeah, homeless looking guy. Yeah, I'm trying to be successful. And he was like, well, my man like you, I like you too. Let's get it. What we didn't know was this man was so plugged in that any act that came to the township, all he had to do was snap a finger and you was on the bill. So every rapper, every artist that came to the township, he would put us on the show without nothing being said. So it instantly made us.
Don't judge a book by its cover.
Right. It instantly made us the man. So at that time I was going back and forth recording and doing my thing, and I found out about this other guy named Irv. Irv had this recording studio off of Park Street in Killumbia. It was out of a house, but this man had it all. He was the truth. I went and met him, man. He had this long ponytail thing, and I was like, man, come on, man. Why I gotta keep meeting these dudes out of the 60s and 70s? So we started doing some production, and I bumped into this guy named Will. Will Payne. Will Payne, his name was, at that time he didn't have like a rap name or whatever, but when I met him, he was like, yo, I'm interested in rapping and you doing your thing. Will you teach me? So because my cousin then fell off, I decided, I said, well, I got a group name, The Woodsman. So let's go ahead and put a group together. So I basically showed him how to formulate his bars and how to put stuff together. He basically was a little pretty boy, kind of like Juvenile at the time. So we linked together and we formed a new version of The Woodsman. I introduced him to my manager, and my manager was like, shit, what do y'all want to do? So I said, well, we got to put an album together. We need to book studio time and put an album together. So the first record that we did, we went in, and I think me and Will paid for this one out of our pockets. We went in and we sampled The Guiding Light, the little piano track from The Guiding Light. And once we finished it, Irv, like, he sequenced it and put it together. Back then when you went in the studio, you didn't just go in with a beat or have a producer. You made it right there with whoever the engineer was at the time. So the average song back in the days was like $3,000. It ain't no $50, $200, $100 like now. We were paying each sound. Just think about it like this. Like, if you take a record and you got a hi-hat in that record, the hi-hat goes for, back then if the song was 5 minutes long, because you was trying to get everything you could out of your money that you spent. So if the hi-hat went for 5 minutes, you got to think about every instrument having to loop for at least 5 minutes in order for You got what I'm saying? So if you got 20 instruments inside your song, each one of those have to loop for that time period.
Yeah.
So it's different processes. So basically what I'm saying is it take about 20 minutes for each sound.
Damn.
So just to lay your beat down is gonna cost you about 3 hours.
Yeah.
All right, now studio time back in the days was $100 an hour.
Yeah.
$120 an hour. It wasn't no play.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so by the time you finish your record and all that recording, you're gonna pay about $3,000 per record. Now, when people say, well, how can that possibly be true? Because back then, we worked off of reel-to-reels. When you was rapping, it wasn't no punching. So if you messed up, you had to start over. So you gotta imagine now, just think about how many times, if you're a rapper now, you go in the booth and you mess up, and you like, bring me back.
Exactly. Talking about them ADAT days. Man.
Yeah,
Right,
man.
before the ADATs, with the real, then we moved into the ADATs.
Yeah.
All right, so by that time, everybody was upgrading, so then we ended up starting, going to ADATs. And ADATs was easier because it was multi-track, and you could finally punch in.
Yeah.
But I want you to remember this, an ADAT wasn't nothing but a VHS tape. That's
Yeah.
all it was with a little stronger thread in it. The more you rewind and punch over and do what you do, you weakening that tape.
Yeah.
Now, how many times, if you were from that era, did you go to somebody's house with your recording tape, your little small little tape, put it in there, it chewed your tape up?
Yeah.
ADATs, everywhere you went, if they didn't have good machines, they could chew your tape up.
Evil.
That's $3,000 that they just chewed up. And you would have to go back in the studio and record all those tracks that were missing.
Yeah.
So at those times, I mean, it was a crazy process at that time. So fast forward past all of that, we started popping. The reason why I brought up that record is because, rest in peace, Left Eye. Irv was friends with Left Eye. Like, they were friends.
Yeah.
Not no, I know her a little bit, none of that.
Yeah.
Irv was friends with her.
Yeah,
He said, bro,
yeah.
this record, forget about y'all coming off, but we need to sell this beat to Left Eye. TLC just broke up. Each one of them settled for a certain amount of money. He knew the exact amount of money, and I don't want to say it wasn't a lot of money. It was like maybe $100 grand, 200, 300 grand. I think it was like 300 grand. He actually spoke the number back then.
Yeah, they had a contract.
Right, he was like, yo, but she'll pay $4 grand for this beat right here. Back then, a beat used to cost 10 grand.
Shit.
Like, it was 10 grand easy. Wyclef, 80 grand. Swiss
yeah.
Beats, 10, 15, 20 grand.
Yeah.
So, at that time, I was like, bro, sell it. It was between 4 to 10 grand for that beat.
Okay.
And my dog, Kevlar, he was like, nah, she want it, then it's a hit. We gonna blow off of it. We should have took the money. Because we put together, we put together an album, right? And when we put the album out, what we started doing, man, is taking it around to people. And it started popping, man. So because of Jake, we ended up getting on a tour.
Yeah.
Now the first tour that we were on tour with Outkast, and we did Outkast for about four cities.
Yeah. Dope shit, bro.
And we were in Greenville, whatever one of them greens is in South Carolina.
Greenwood, yeah.
Greenwood or Greenville. Right.
Yeah.
We were.
I remember the Woods, man.
No doubt.
Yeah. The name was out here like motherfucker.
Yeah.
They was on the radio and all types of shit.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I remember.
No doubt. So we were on tour with Outkast, and we were in Greenville, wherever. At this club, man, and I was kind of like, I had guns and stuff, like, back then I was a kind of street dude, not an ignorant guy, but certain things didn't bother me. So we were going to a club that had a reputation for being shot up. When we got there, I think like one of the windows was boarded up because they had a shootout like that following weekend.
Yeah.
So they were Cass was kind of timid, like they was like, bro, we don't want to go in there. And I'm like, bro, let's roll. We ain't worried, we ain't worrying about nothing.
Yeah.
My team, we was kind of a little different. We rolled a little different. So that was one of the things, like before they really, really blew, they had a promotion run, and I met them on that promotion run. Now when that album, so I met them before I heard the music.
Oh my God.
So this is before Southern Playalistic.
Right. Now it was they were doing songs from Southern Playalistic, but it was a different vibe back then. You know what I mean? Because rap was a little different. So when you heard them live, it wasn't the same feel as when you heard that album. That album. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, and also on that tour was a young dude by the name of Pastor Troy at the time. Troy came to us, man, and he brought us his music on the tape. I believe it was a red tape, and he gave it to us. He was like, yo, y'all check this out. So I put the tape in, and I was like, man, he's doing a lot of hollering and screaming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, man, I don't know if people gonna like this, man, but I liked it. Everybody else in my camp, they were like, hey, you know how people kind of, he ain't crew, so they don't like him type thing. Mm-hmm. They were hating on him, man, but I was listening to it like, yo, if people hear him, this man finna go.
Yeah.
Yeah, he finna go. So he was a little skinny dude, man. A little skinny dude with a nice haircut, like little polo shirts, kind of preppy dude. He was like a dude that, from my remembrance, he would get best dressed every time you saw him.
Word.
But it was a group of them, and the crazy part is when they went on stage, you couldn't tell who he was. Nobody knew who Pastor Troy was. It was 5 guys on stage. And because everybody was rapping the rap at the same time.
Yeah.
So you couldn't tell. We knew who he was, but the crowd, you can look at the crowd and tell the crrowd, like, which one is Pastor Troy?
They
you know
all
what I mean?
Pastor
Because
Troy.
they all was Pastor Troy.
So,
you know, his DSGB boys, whatever it was, they were there from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Like, they were actually there from the beginning. So we went on tour. We went, then we got in a situation with 3-6 Mafia, Gangsta Boo. We went on tour with her. I remember it was a club on Broad River Road, man, and while she was performing with them dollars at, man, I don't know, these dudes in Killumbia, we always been crazy. They started throwing pennies at her. Like while she performing, I'm like, yo, this was a big star at the time. And we so disrespectful, so I basically, and this story might not be true, it might be something I made up. I remember getting on stage with her, and I knew at that time I was strapped, so I got on stage with her. I think I sat on the edge of the stage. I just like got up and sat down and turned around towards the crowd. Like, so if a penny got thrown, it would hit me.
Yeah.
So it was basically like, and at that time, man, being a rapper, back then wasn't any rappers. So it was, you were somebody. Like when I went places, I signed autographs and I was very popular at the time. Because just imagine, you take these rappers nowadays, Mister and Sak and all these people. It wasn't no rapper, so I had the
yeah. And you know
crowd.
what? I don't mean to cut you off right here, but I want to say, bruh, as somebody like Zach come along, he didn't just pop out of the woodwork. It was people like you, it was people like me, it was people like Fats that laid down the foundation for the Southern hip hop, or the South Carolina hip hop, that actually get his stronghold and start grinding his wheels and actually grip on to something.
Oh yeah.
So I want to say, just from you telling your story, man, historically, man, I think this is really important from that South Carolina hip hop aspect, because these stories ain't never been told. I ain't never heard these stories, and I just want to say I appreciate you coming on the podcast to I can say display not only what you've been through, but what you about to take over. You see what I'm saying?
No doubt. And I know I'm long-winded, but I want to kind of get this thing out because I've never actually told these stories.
Word.
So to kind of round out the end of the music thing, the last tour that I think that we were on was with Cash Money, the Cash Money Millionaires at the time, and we went on a couple of dates with them. And the last thing that I do remember, that we had a show somewhere here in Killumbia, and we were at the Adams Mark Hotel downtown.
I remember that.
And these guys had like 3 tour buses. One of them had the studio on it. One had like a gym. The other one was just like a sleeping quarters. Like when they was rolling, bro, they was rolling heavy. And my partner Kevlar, he's passed on. But rest in peace, Kevlar and Juvenile, they just got tight. Like Burlington and Coat Factory just opened up, and Kevlar used to go there all the time to get his jeans. Like him and Juvie went. Like he had a Lexus at the time. That kind of gave us some stunting ability too, cause my dog had a brand new Lexus that we shouldn't have been driving. I mean, he just had one at the time, so it kind of like it pushed us back then because we were young dudes that had a big time car that only lawyers and doctors had. So him and Juvie, they would just ride off and go do little things, and they became so tight. Whenever people saw him, they looked so much alike that they thought that it was basically me and Juvenile when we were going places. And we would even play up on it sometimes. He would sign pictures and whatever as Juvie because they looked so much alike. He put a skull cap on, people thought it was Juvie. Alright, so that kind of made us popular, in itself. So we actually fell out with them. Like, it was something that Manny Fresh did, man. And cause when we first met them, my manager, like I say, he was popping. He bought like a whole floor full of rooms. for us to relax seeing Cash Money was like, who are these dudes that popping like that? You know what I mean? And it was basically us. So Manny was on some kind of something, man, where he told, you know, security that we tried to rob him or jump on him and we had to leave the building. It was, man, it was just a mess, man. And basically, what it was they had a lot of money, they had a lot of jewelry, and they didn't understand whether they could trust us or not. You know what I mean? Because it got to the point like, are these dudes gonna rob us or what? You know, what's their point?
They're a little wild,
right? Because these dudes, you talking about Baby and Manny them, they walking around with shoe boxes with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in them.
Say you riding 3 tour buses and one a gym,
right? And it's like,
you know what I'm saying?
You know, they from a place that's at that time way more dangerous than where we from. So it's like, are these dudes friend or foe? And I guess they had to draw the line.
Well, yeah, your instincts take over then. You know, it's like, you know, survival. You know
right. So with the music. To make a long story short, I'm done with that. With the music, Kevlar and my manager got in a fist fight in Bishopville, South Carolina, while we were on tour. Basically, what happened is our contract was 2 bottles of Moet, 2 cases of beer, 3 to 4 cordless mics, and a limo. No matter what that was on our contract. So when we got there, it was a crappy hotel. They had cases of beer. I think they had the drinks, and the limo was actually a car from a funeral home, and it didn't have no tent on it. So my manager and Kevlar were going crazy about it. They were mad. Man, listen here, man. I'm in a small town. We didn't got paid. I think we was getting $4,500 a show. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I ain't tripping. I'm getting $500 off of every show. Hey. What y'all complain about, man? We here. They can't. And look, we pulled up, man. They touching all on the window. They all looking in there like, hey, that's them. Hey, taking pictures and stuff. But you know, I wasn't tripping about it. It was cool.
I guess your manager tripping.
So my manager he ultimately came around and was like, you know what? Don't worry about that, man. We good. You people paying us. He was, you know, level-headed about it. So Kevlar said, I ain't doing it. He said, I'm not doing it. And I'm like, bro, sometimes you get the big head. You know, because the whole line, he, you know, even though I was the backbone, you take Pimp and Bun B is what you really had if you look at us. You had like Pimp C and Bun B, and I was the bun roll. He was like the superstar that really talked a lot of smack. So my manager came over to the limo, to the car, the funeral car, and opened up the door and was like, yo, y'all getting out, y'all performing. I'm like, bro, let's roll. He said, I ain't going nowhere. So a door got slammed on somebody and they got the bamming.
Oh shit.
And listen, I got on some white Air Force Ones that I just bought. New Jersey, I think I had white pants on. We out there on the dirt road, they out there bamming. We got to be on stage in like 10 minutes. Damn. They out there getting it on. I'm talking about a good fight. Yeah. Bamming hard. So I grabbed my manager up and walked him for about a half a block. I picked him up off his feet and walked him. And we talking, and he mad, you know, because he older than us, and he looking at it like it was disrespectful. Yeah. The fight was a tie. Anybody want to know it was a tie? And I think that really bothered him too. Damn. Because it was a good fight. So I broke him up and from there, Kevlar said I ain't doing it and left. He left, but we got to be on stage in 10 minutes. We had this little young cat that used to always be with us named Bezo. Bezo was just a young dude that was from the area that we was from North 21 Terrace. He dissed us. He dissed us on some stuff that he was doing independently. But once he did it, I was a street dude. I say, where he at? Yeah. Let's go get him. Yeah. We pulled up, bro, what's up? He said, shoot, I want to be down with y'all. That's why I did. I said, come on. He came on, and he was with us. So at the show that night, he was like, bro, I know his verses. Bro, you don't know his verses. He said, bro, I know every word. Word. But we was, and that became the New Woodsman. The New Woodsman. He went in there and he did all his verses, and we finished touring with Bezo doing his verses. Now it's time to drop the album that we've been sitting on for 2 years after we had big radio play. And it's 2 years later, and we still ain't put an album out when the album would have went dumb. So my manager, because he felt some kind of way, he was like, "No, I'm taking that fool off everything." He took Kevlar off everything. Bezo went back in and recorded new verses and basically switched voices out. Damn. He got another $3,000. To master it, probably another $3 or $4 or $5,000 at the time. But my manager, he paid for it. We went and did a photo shoot, got the covers done, we got everything done, and finally the Woodsman album dropped. That's what's up, at that time, we had the Big DM. Prince Ice is one of my boys now, but for a lot of years.
Shout out DJ Prince Ice.
he's my boy now, but for a lot of years I didn't like him.
Yeah.
And the reason why I didn't like him is because he said to me face to face, he said, I will never play gangster rap. And if you know him to this point, he has never done it. And this was back in the mid late 90s, and he told me that back then, and he's never done it.
I ain't no advocate for Prince Ice like that. But what I will say is I always had a good spot in my heart for him, because I done told this story a couple times. But my cousin, man, he's come down from New Jersey and New York in the summertime. He used to always think he would have had some music I ain't heard yet. And if anybody, you know what I mean, from around here know, like Prince Ice used to go in on Friday and Saturday nights, boy, it ain't no telling what you would have heard.
That's right.
So every time he came through with these new artists, Prince Ice had already put me on. So I really appreciate that, you know what I mean? But
yes, sir.
See, from your angle, man, you feel me?
Oh yeah, no doubt. So from that point, once we finished the music, the Big DM was kind of fading out a little bit. They had a pick it or kick it thing, and we would win it constantly. You know, we were doing our thing, and
we had a couple songs on that pick it or kick it.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Jake Ross, shout out to B Lord too, because back then B Lord was a part of a group called the Black Cats, and he was rapping a little bit back then.
Yeah, shout out to B Lord.
It was before he was a DJ, and I think that's kind of funny because every time I see him, he act like he ain't never seen me before.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the story. It was a radio station coming to South Carolina called Hot 103.9.
Yeah.
It wasn't here yet, and they were just loading into the building. But because of Jake Ross heard about it, and he was like, "Yo, y'all go down there and hit them with the best professional situation that y'all can." We went down there with posters. We went down there with albums. We actually had our stuff pressed up on records. Like if you think about Easy and them back in the days, we actually did that.
Yeah.
When you meet a DJ, there ain't nothing like giving him 2 records. You know what I mean? People was just doing tapes and ADAS, but we would hit you off with a record. That costs a lot of money. And my manager, like I said, all I had to do was say, "Bro, this is what we need." And he went and did it. So when we pulled up on them, they looked at us like, "Dang, these guys got their stuff together." They looked at us like a major group. Plus we were on tour and stuff. So for 2 years straight, our record played once an hour.
Wow.
It played once an hour, and then in the second year, it went to at least once every 4 hours. We were the biggest. Everybody thought that we were signed to a major deal because of how much play we were getting.
Yeah.
So we were booking shows everywhere and getting paid and doing our thing. And this is what I remember. I might be kind of like padding it a little bit, but my manager and a few other people, they kind of know the story or whatever. But we locked it in. They had Princess Ivory, man. She was the lady that was running a lot, at the studio. I think Pizzo Coconuts was there, Aunt Mac. It was just a lot of people there that showed us love. So whenever people came
that's
in,
how you get out. Back in the day, you know what I'm saying? Like now, everybody want to get so many damn likes and views, you know what I'm saying, on Facebook, YouTube. Back in the day, you had to get radio spins.
Yeah, you had to have it.
That's the only way you was going to really get your music out to the public. Like
Period.
that.
Period. That was the only way. So with that radio play, man, no doubt, it just made us infamous. All right, so with that, man, I did it for a couple years. Then I started fading out with the rap stuff, and I kind of wanted, because of me always trying to be a leader. I knew that I never thought I was a dope rapper. I thought I did okay, but I knew that I wasn't talented like some of these people I was running across. Yeah. Like when you meet Outkast, and you meet Lil Wayne and doing these little ciphers with BG and them. You see talent and you know talent. Like I was just doing my thing.
It's a different level. Like I'm in the league, but I ain't Jordan.
Right. I was in the league. I could rap with probably the big times. I could have been one of them.
Yeah.
But with Wayne and I just saw talent that was like out of this world by seeing them. So I started saying, wait a minute, let me see if I can find some talent. So I started looking around here, and I rounded up a group of dudes because Bezo he was the best at the time. He was the best. It wasn't a rapper in South Carolina that could handle him. Yeah. And for him being my partner, I just used to sit back and kind of like let him be a little beast. But he would bring the young dudes that was like him out of the streets because I was maybe 4 or 5 years older than him. You know what I mean? So he started bringing me all these little dudes from all these areas. So I formed a group because we was from Richland County, Rich Boys. That was the name. That was the name of our group. We formed a group called Rich Boys. And Rich Boys did a lot of little things regionally. Okay, I want to end it there. My last music story before I move on to the business is it was a dude out of Augusta, Savannah somewhere. and I was at a club one night. Back then, my rap name was actually Camouflage. Okay. That was my name. I was featured in The Source, Murder Dog, a lot of different other magazines regionally. And I was at a club one night in Savannah, man, and B Lord at that time he started popping a little more. He was in the club, and it was this dude they was pushing around his record and stuff. So when I bumped into the dude, I was like, "What's up, bro? They been talking about you, man." He said, "Yeah, man, my name David. I got a shirt on that say Camouflage. I spelled mine with a K. I think he spelled his with a C. He said David instead of saying, 'What's up, Camouflage? I'm Camouflage too.'" Basically, he copped the deuce. R.I.P. to Camouflage.
Oh shit.
But Cut Friends finally dropped.
Yeah.
And it went dumb.
Yeah.
So it made me and the one thing about possession is this: 9/10 of the law is possession, even in the streets.
Yes.
His name was popping as Camouflage, and he had a hit record.
Yeah.
So it looked like I was copying him. Yeah. I had to change my name.
Wow.
So I had to sit back on that thing because it was like, man, what could I do? I done had my name for so many years. This little young cat, you gotta bow out because he got videos on TV at this point.
Damn.
You gotta bow out. You
Camouflage started popping. He started popping.
Right. Yeah. So I had to change my name, and what I did was, man, my favorite group was UGK.
UGK.
And a lot of people don't know this, and now you guys will know where it come from. My favorite group is from Port Arthur, Texas.
Yeah.
PA is Port Arthur.
Yeah.
And that's where Paul came from.
Oh,
because of my favorite group. And a lot of people thought it was from a lot of different things, but truth is it was paying homage to UGK.
Damn, that's dope.
Because of the fact that I love them so much, and to me they are and will forever be the kings of the South.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where Big Paul came from.
Rest in peace, Pimp.
You know what I mean? So rest in peace to Pimp, and that's where it actually came from. I basically retired. No doubt. I retired from
exclusive.
Right. I retired from rap. And it's crazy. I retired from rap at 35. That's owning studios and all this other things. And
you ain't even speak on that because that's how I got to know you. You own the studio. You know what I mean? When we were doing our thing, we was coming through you.
I left. At that time, I retired from rap, man, and I met this female. And I hope I don't say too much. I'm not gonna say too much. I met this female, man, and she was plugged into a different kind of world. And she introduced me to hustling at a whole nother level.
Blanco.
So and we formed a beautiful relationship. It was a romantic relationship. She put me on a new level. And once I graduated from that level, my money changed, my life changed, and I started looking at business opportunities. So and plus you always need a front when you're doing certain things.
Yeah, that's word.
So I put money with the help of one of my friends, an older guy. We started doing like this studio kind of run type stuff, and me and him saw differences. From simple stuff like I didn't smoke at the time, and he was like a smoker, so they were like smoking in the studio and stuff like that, and I didn't like it. So we kind of went on our own ways, but I took my time and started opening up studios, and with the help of my engineer friend at the time, T. Shout out to T.
Yeah.
We opened up a studio, and we started doing our thing. But from there, like any good thing, I had picked up artists and stuff like that, and I just felt like it was time for me. Shout out to Big Hurt too, and all the rest of the artists that was on Rise and Shine Records. I retired from that. From there, Hurt was still kind of doing this thing, so I went to a guy named 5DZ, and I reached out to him to shoot a video for Hurt. And when I reached out to him for to do the video with Hurt, I basically was aggravating him the whole time, like, man, do it like this, or you should do it like this, or you should do it like that. So once he finished, jokingly, he was like, bro, you should shoot videos yourself. Wow. I was like, well, yeah, okay.
Light bulb.
Right. Will you show me how to do it? And he was like, yeah. So 5 actually showed me, he told me what equipment to get. He told me, what to do.
Shout out to 5DZ for not holding that type of information back, man.
Right.
He was real about it.
He's like from New
York,
York,
man.
Yeah, he sunned me, and he showed me, what I needed to do at the time, to get things cracking. And I did that. But being that I had a little bit of bread, I was able to do it at a different level than what he was telling me to do. You know what I mean? It was this new camera style that came out, At first we were just using, you know, regular HD cameras, handheld little handy cams and stuff like that. But it was a new thing called DSLR. And basically what it is a picture camera that can shoot video. So the same pretty picture that you can get from taking a picture, you could actually get it through video now. So these cameras were expensive, and I was able to go and grab one and be one of the first persons in the city with one of these cameras. Now I didn't know how to work it, and again, just like rap, I wasn't the best skilled at it.
Wow.
I just knew how to hold it and how to get a finished product out of it.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I shot videos for about between 5 to 7 years.
Dope shit.
You know what I'm saying? I even shot videos for this guy right here.
Dope shit, bro.
You know,
man.
I shot a video. The biggest one I ever shot was Cedric the Entertainer. I shot a video for him in New York. You know, shout out to T for that. So that ran its course, man, and I decided to retire because honestly, what I got tired of doing with this music video stuff, and this even goes now to what I'm seeing now, I got tired of trying to make broke people, look like they got money.
Look like they rich.
Because they rapping about all this money that they got and all these fancy things, and they didn't have it. And it's like, it was so aggravating to me to have to put together concepts for these dudes who didn't bring nothing to the table but some weed. You know, I was charging, at the time I was charging good money, so I was making good money, but it was just aggravating. It got to the point where I was dragging to go shoot a video. Like, oh man, I gotta shoot a video.
I wanted to say this right here on camera, man. I feel like this was important to say, man. Paul, one of the reasons why I fuck with you the way I do, bro, is because I don't know if you remember the situation with my video in particular, but we paid for a video, and then you hit us while we was shooting a video, like, you know, if you pay for 2 at once, I'm gonna look you out.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Bruh, I don't know what song we gonna make our second video. And you was like, bruh, it don't matter, like, just get at me, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I think a damn year and a half went by or some shit, man. It was crazy. I still had Paul's phone number. I still remember what he said. I called Paul up, I said, bruh, man, something went down with the situation. We ain't doing it like how we were doing it before, but me and the new dude I'm rocking with, we need a video. Remember, we paid you for 2, cuz, bruh. My man finished the conversation like we had just talked about this shit yesterday. I ain't really had no talking with Paul in that whole like year and a half, but when I called him and told him about business, he remembered it like it was yesterday. It's a lot of cats would act left or right about that. I feel like that's something important I need to bring to the table, and one of the reasons why I got the respect and the homage I do towards you, bro, because you ain't had to play it like that, you know what I mean? So I just like little shit like that, man. I'm big on loyalty and shit.
It definitely show, you know, you a man of your word too.
No doubt.
Yeah, man.
You can go ahead and finish.
I appreciate it. Nah, it's all good. So like I said, I shot videos for a while and I just got tired of it. It's a lot of people that I came across during my time of rapping and being in the streets and doing production, like. And for some reason, man, a lot of these people have popped. Like, I can't call all the names, but I can say that if you want to think about producer, I can start off with what his name is, Super Mario. I can start off with Super Mario.
Yeah.
Super Mario was a dude that used to come to my. He's popping right now. Big placements.
Yeah.
He was a dude that used to come to my studio that wasn't taking nothing serious. He might not like what I'm saying, but it's okay. He wasn't taking life serious. He wasn't taking his grind serious. And he had a habit of selling the same beat to multiple people.
Oh, shit.
Right. So at this time, because I'm around him and I like the kid. I like him a lot.
Wow.
And I'm like, bro, why do you... He like, Paul, it wasn't on purpose. You know, things that I was doing wasn't on purpose. I'm like, bro, you can't keep making these excuses up. You got to tighten up. So I even, when it got computers and stuff to sit on the desk just for these guys to work at, because it was like him and B. How the other producers that I had at the time doing that Magic Fingers. BJ Cash was a producer at the time, who's now a movie. And he basically showed the beat to a killer. A dude that was a real solid street dude that I know that put that work in. This dude was like, big dog, you know I respect you and I love you, but I'm finna come put some work in. I was like, bro, nah, I stalled the little dude out. I'm gonna talk to him. How much money do we owe you? And he was basically like, big dog, on the strength of you, don't worry about that. I ain't know he was your people like that. I said, yeah, he my people. So I think we threw him a couple hours of studio time or something like that. But you know, you could take him. It's just many people. Zach, Rennie I only met a few times back in
You
the
got
days.
to work with Speaker Knockers?
Speaker Knockers is one of my son's friends.
Oh, okay.
My son used to always be like, bro, Dad, I need you to meet this dude, man. He want to meet you, and a lot of even like Savani, like I remember like a lot of these dudes saying, man, can I come and just you know, apprentice under you, or you know, just things like that because they was younger. I never did it. You know, I hope they don't feel any kind of way about it because I was always busy or doing what I was doing, like I'm sure they are now. But I've had a lot of these guys that pop, you know, touching them and dealing with them. I can't say this. And I don't know if Zach would ever, if he ever even sees this video, would he ever remember it or not. But I know that I always, when I get around rappers that I think got a chance, I always tell them this one thing, and I tell them, look, if you are dope, go record at studios where rappers record at.
Yeah.
So they can bump into you.
Yeah.
And I say this to any rapper now, if you hot, go book time at studios where rappers go to.
That's dope.
You know, so if you know that your favorite rapper records here, look at their tour dates, see when they got openings, and book your time in that studio. The same engineer, let's use if you like the Baby.
Yeah.
The same engineer that records for the Baby, why would you not be using him for your music?
Yeah.
Word.
He has a business where he only making $100 an hour.
Word.
And he got to still live after he finished recording the Baby. So why aren't you not recording with him? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just makes total sense to me.
Too
Why not
easy.
be
Like
using
you
with
said,
professional
you dope.
music?
Right,
And then he gonna turn you on to the Baby in no time.
Right, and they're human. So if they know that song dope and they got a good mix on it, they gonna pop your record on when the right people around, so they can be like, "Who is that?" That's how you open up situations.
Right.
And
Common sense, man.
one thing about Zach is Zach was the type of dude. Him and Beezy, he was the type of dude that would soak stuff up like a sponge. You know what I mean? And I liked him because of the fact that he would listen. And like when I gave direction, you know, he would listen, put his flavor on it. You know, and from there, again, that was to end that saying that I respect all these people that's grinding. I had a lot of touching and feeling as far as making things happen behind the scenes and kind of puppet mastering a little bit to a lot of these people that's popping. And I want to say, you know, salute to y'all, man. Even Lil Rue. Lil Rue with TD or whoever else at that time. Lil Rue told me, he was like, Paul, I saw y'all was doing a show at the Electric Warehouse. He said, bro, when I saw how people responded to you, he was like, bro, that made me start rapping.
Dope.
You know, so even Mr. Flip and other people like that, like these are people that been doing it and that I respect. So if that's how they feel, then you got to think about the young cats now that grew up watching them and so forth and so on. If I'm the reason they started, then I birthed a lot of these dudes that don't even know.
Man, he was a big contributor.
And you can't deny the impact the Woodmans had on South Carolina hip hop in Killumbia.
Most definitely.
I mean, like you said, bro, it wasn't really nobody. I can't recall no rapper.
I mean, just the fact that being honest with you, just the fact that you was representing South Carolina. I mean, like, you know, most people, they would have been taking it to Atlanta and then claiming Atlanta.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That part too.
I always felt like with that mindset, I always felt like it's you can go to Atlanta and do your thing, and I guarantee that. And I'm contemplating that now. I'm contemplating leaving here, and I'll tell you why in a second. But at the time that I was doing my thing, I always was happy to be the big fish in this little pond. Because I was able to move and make things happen. You know what I'm saying? And I felt good and comfortable. Sometimes you got to come out of sometimes you got to come up out of your comfort zone.
But shit, I think I want to use this right here as a good segue to transition into the Killumbia part of things. You can start talking about your evolution at the beginning. And like I basically you already started because it started from the rap videos. That's how you got familiar with the camera. But then your mindset. I personally want to know when that light bulb went off. You know what? I'm about to do a movie. I'm about to do a web series. So let's talk about that real fast.
Carolina breed, welcome to Carolina where them boys stack cheese.